First it was Tshwane, then the Western Cape, and now a threat to oust the KZN ANC leadership. Some disgruntled ANC members widen the divide within the party, leading to concerns that this could affect the ANC's performance at the polls. On the debate, we ask if the factionalism will hurt the ANC at the local government elections. And joining us from my left is Tsepo Khadima, political analyst. Professor Shadrack Gucho is with UNISA, and Dumiso Mokako as an ANC Youth League NEC member. Thanks so much for joining us, gentlemen. You at home are most welcome. 011-542-2186, and our Twitter handle is @ANN7TV. Just with the numbers coming in, earlier on we were looking at the latest C-voter poll, the SA Convenience poll, showing a toe-to-toe or neck-to-neck split within the parties, but largely the prominence of the DA coming forward, being more popular, particularly in Tshwane. You think the factionalism within the ANC is already beginning to weigh in on the party?
Look, I mean, I quip that probably the DA leadership will this weekend go to their respective churches to give glory for answered prayer. In that certainly the squabbles that we see in the public cannot in any shape or form help in campaigning season, but most importantly, they detract from the very important work that any party should be doing at this point in time, which is that of really campaigning and going door to door, but more so concentrating, making the main issue to be the main issue as already articulated in their respective manifestos. So certainly, but my own view is that I think for the African National Congress at this point in time, the leadership maybe needs to show a little bit more appreciation, because political leadership is about influence, no more, no less. You cannot decree anything. You actually have to lead through persuasion and through influencing people to see the direction that you're going. And also, you need to be disagreeing without being disagreeable. And certainly the spats that we see that are eventuating in court litigation, that shows that now some within the party are being disagreeable, and that cannot help in this season in terms of elections. So one can only maybe just say, observe and see post the elections. What will the leadership do differently than what they have been able to do to date? Because certainly I don't think that the leadership nationally have really covered themselves in glory in the manner in which they handled this problem, some of them that have been simmering for a long time, and certainly I think that is going to have an impact on the party being able to perform as well as it should have. Because for the first time, not in fact for the first time, but the number of people who will be participating in these elections is that much higher, because you've got a much larger population and there's been newer voters that have come, which are the younger people. So certainly, yeah, these are difficult times, I think, for the African National Congress.
All right, Grant is calling us in Pretoria. Hello, Grant.
Hi, good evening, Sandy.
Hi, what's your question or comment?
Well, there's just a great vacuum of leadership in the ANC. And it's filtering right down from the president right through all the ranks. It is absolutely shocking to see a party that was so majestic in this level currently, where it is even possible that they are going to lose a good few metros that they shouldn't have never lost. But if there's no leadership, then this is what happened. They stood behind Jacob Zuma when they should have kicked him out. And they're going to pay for that, because the people not accepting willy-nilly apologies, and the leadership is just not there. Nobody seems to be able to stand up to this one person, and the ANC is now deemed a factional party because there are divisions all over amongst themselves.
Yeah, Grant, if I may ask, are you a party member? Are you a party member yourself?
I used to be. I'm not going to vote for them this time around, because I'm not happy what's happening with the ANC.
All right, Grant, let's just get a response from our panelists. Thanks for calling. And just looking at factionalism, by definition, it is about a small pocket of discontent within a larger group. But of course, if you do not manage that, and primarily when it goes into the public domain, it seems more amplified than what it is. Maybe, Ndume, so you can give us a sense of how extensive this problem is.
I think there are 2 points I want to make. The first one is that unity of blacks in general and Africans in particular has always been important to the ANC from its inception. It is not only important during an election time. So whenever there is signs of absolute disunity or something that will disrupt us from uniting South Africans towards the common goal as captured in the Freedom Charter, we get worried. The second point I want to make is that in the history of the ANC, different types of factions have emerged from time to time. This thing is not new. Those who are conversant with the history will recall that the group that formed the PAC were a faction that defected from the ANC. So what we worry about is whether the factions, what is the basis of those factions? Are they ideological factions? Are they political factions? Or are they factions of material? But most importantly, the ANC has time and again risen above factions. I will make 2 examples. In 1996, the ANC expelled General Bantu Holomisa, a popular general from the Transkei, who in 1997 formed the UDM. After he formed the UDM, people were starting to write the ANC off in the Eastern Cape, in particular in the Transkei. But the ANC did exceptionally well in the 1999 general elections in the Eastern Cape and got about 73%. In 2008, after the Polokwane conference, a group of people left the ANC and they said that they are serving divorce papers and formed COPE. And again, former national chair of the ANC, Terra Likota, a very popular Minister of Defense, they formed the COPE. They went to the 2009 general elections. We defeated them again.
Can the party afford to hemorrhage so many times? I suppose it has to evolve. But before you conclude your thought, let's take Charles in Klerksdorp. Hi, Charles.
Cindy, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just want to say to those political analysts there that I'm a member of the ANC for many years. I'm a very disciplined member. There are some members within the ANC that serve in the ANC emotionally, because when you are not elected to be a councillor, then you leave the ANC. But if you are disciplined, if you are a disciplined side of the ANC, of this movement, then you won't. There won't be any faction. So I'm not going to agree with any political analyst there, because I just want to be honest. With due respect to Professor Guto, if we can recall that he was a deputy president of the ID with Priscilla de Lille. And today he must be grateful for the ANC that has brought him from a foreign land, and he's now here and just saying whatever he wants to say about the ANC. So myself, as an ANC member, I will protect the ANC no matter what. But those people that are breaking and trying to destroy the ANC is people that are new. They are not cadres within the movement. They are emotionally there. So those people must go.
Charles, point taken. Professor Guto, just your response there, and maybe dealing with the constitutional structures of an organization vis-a-vis the overarching supremacy of the Constitution, as we've seen with some ANC members taking their members or leaders to court, for that matter, and your origins. Now that it's brought out in the open, if you will, you might as well just cover that as well.
No, let me start first with the question of the constitution hierarchy of constitution. The ANC constitution is below the national constitution. Our national constitution is the highest law in the country, and any action, whether by a president or an individual on the street, or by parliament or by judiciary, which does not conform to the constitution, is unlawful and unconstitutional. The question around all this of my origin and so on, which smells of a bit of xenophobia and Afrophobia, but to be frank, I came to South Africa when I was a refugee in Sweden. I was a refugee from Kenya. When I came here in 1994, I was given a permanent residency. In 2000, I acquired citizenship. So I enjoy my citizenship as a South African citizen. And Section 3 and 20 protect me in the Constitution. So I don't want to dwell on that.
No, the point I was making was about the policies that Charles was saying that the ANC had afforded, certain migration or movement of people with relative ease because of the reform within the immigration policy. I think that was the point. Walter is in Mpumalanga. Hello, Walter. Hi, Walter.
Hello, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Your question or comment?
It's a comment, actually. You know, Cindy, we have a problem here with people who are not accepting, the masses of the ANC when they elect leaders. You know, you would want a leader, maybe that leader will not be elected. So you have to agree, because it's a democratic organization, the African National Congress. Coming to these issues of who comes from which country, what is saying, blah, 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 referring to the professor, the Shedrack Guto. You know, it's disturbing a lot. Shedrack Guto, I think, as he is the professor, I think he should make it clear to the South Africans. He doesn't like the African National Congress, he likes the opposition parties, because always when he comments negative against the ANC, coming to Grant, the former caller, saying he was an ANC member, Grant himself had to understand that the leaders are elected by the majority of the people. So if your leader that you want to be elected is not elected, you have to accept if you are an ANC member, because we are all, taking part in all the processes, coming from the branches, regional level, provincial level, national level. We have to accept. We not come and make stupid noises here.
Walter, a point taken. Zianda is on hold. Hi, Zianda.
How are you, ma'am?
Good, thank you.
Walter, the caller who just called now on attacking Professor Guto, it's very wrong. It is clear that the ANC is running into liquidation. Whoever is representing the ANC at the studio today, let assure him of something. The ANC is disbanded. Reverend Desmond Tutu has won the ANC long time ago based on the leadership of the ANC. They are above the Constitution, the leadership of the ANC. This is what drives the ANC into losing most of the voters.
All right, Zianda, and I can assure you that none of our guests will be undermined or disrespected, and that is just a editorial policy and a company obligation that we have. So the context, again, that I wanted to give, just to clarify about Charles in asking about Professor's place of birth or origin, was, again, to illustrate, I think, the policies that the ANC brought about. But I don't want to labor that.
Yes,
can Dumiso just
make
please
a few points. The first thing that we must correct is that there is no leadership of the ANC that is above the Constitution. The president of the ANC and also the president of the country recently subjected himself to the Constitutional Court, and he accepted the outcome of the Constitutional Court and is implementing what the Constitutional Court instructed him to do. So I don't think that is true. Secondly, there has never been a contest on which constitution is superior, that of the ANC or that of the country. The constitutional democracy we find ourselves in was given birth by struggles of the ANC. In fact, we have cases where courts have found against the ANC, and the ANC have, in many instances, adhered to the findings of the court. When we were in the 2012 Congress in Mangaung, the court instructed the Free State Provincial Executive Committee to reconvene their provincial congress because a certain grouping had taken them to court. And the ANC did not hesitate, and they went back and reconvened the conference in Free State. Secondly, the issue of democracy. Again, if you are saying when we manage factions, we must also not be autocratic. We cannot criminalize democracy. If people feel that they are not happy with a particular process of the ANC and they want to go and stand as independents, we can't allow them. We can't disallow them. People join the ANC voluntarily and they will leave voluntarily. So from time to time, we try to manage those political situations, but the ANC cannot be held at ransom by people who do not want to accept democratic outcomes of processes of the ANC. So the point that I'm making is that whenever the ANC whenever people leave the ANC or when people join the ANC, it is because they agree with it at that particular point in time. But what history has proven is that many organizations or people leave and form their organizations, but in elections, the ANC still rises above those small groupings.
And I want to come back to that point, and I'm not even going to go in terms of impartiality or whether people perceive you to be biased or not. You know, maybe we should just go back to the stats here, in that in Johannesburg, for example, based on the SA convenience poll, the ANC is at 49.8% and the DA at 35%. Still, the ANC doesn't have a clear convincing margin or numbers. Hold on, Ndumis. And this is across the demographics regarding education, social groups, of course, excluding the white vote. Point of the matter is people are disgruntled, and our democracy allows for the expression of such. So to deny that there's factionalism or problems defeats the entire purpose. Tsepo.
Yeah, I think one has to look at that in context. When we look at Gauteng is the most populous province, the smallest in land mass, therefore there's high density areas as we see with the townships. And those metros, most certainly, that is where the game is happening. But when one looks at the overall membership of the African National Congress per capita compared to all the other provinces, in fact, Gauteng doesn't feature. The game politically is in KZN, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, Free State, and Northwest. And if you have those 5 provinces, it means, therefore, that's the influence, those are the provinces that influence the ANC. Now, that has posed a problem, and we see that in the polls. We see that in the national elections of 2014, whereby the ANC had a highly reduced margin. But that is directly correlating to the fact that you got the smallest members, therefore ANC does not have enough people on the ground to go and do the person-to-person, the high touch as I would normally refer to it. So that certainly it is affecting the ANC. And until and such time that the ANC membership in Gauteng correlates with the population size of Gauteng, I think that they are going to continue to battle. The question that we should be asking is that, well, what can the ANC do from here?
Yeah.
I think that they are underutilizing...
I have to take callers. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Johnny and Tembisa, hi, and hello, Tony.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Great. I'm more concerned about these intellectual people who are doing tenders with ANC. Do you hear me?
I'm not sure what you mean, Johnny.
I'm saying ANC is dying because of intellectual people who are doing tenders with ANC.
Or ANC as a party or ANC in government? Because there's many businesses that do business with government, if you get my drift. But what's your point?
I'm saying those people who are taking those people on the panel from ANC side are those intellectuals who has got tenders with ANC.
Yeah.
And instead of building ANC, they're killing ANC just because they're defending a defenseless party.
All right, Johnny, I don't know what the basis of your information is, but let's go to Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, sir.
Ma'am, I think the problem with the ANC is that they believe in it's either you're with me or you're against me. It's either you're my friend or my foe. And the example is, it is just what happened to your guest, Professor Guto. You see, I don't think the ANC understand democracy or they can stand democracy. They are a dictatorship party. Democracy is not about me voting for you each and every election. It's about weighing whether after the past 5 years, after I voted for you, did you deliver? If you did not deliver, I must get another party. That is democracy. When Professor Guto, if Professor Guto was an ANC member and he changed, that is democracy. And the member there of ANC, he's missing the point. Whether PAC, UDM, or COPE was part of ANC, that is irrelevant. The point is ANC going to survive the way it's going?
All right,
and
Tony.
Charles,
yeah.
Sorry, Charles, your previous caller talked about democratic values within the ANC. But the question is, when they elect people within the ANC, are they following those channels properly? Are they not cheating those channels? That's why people get disgruntled.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tony. So maybe the process itself, let's give Professor Kuto an opportunity. The process of the candidature list being fraught with mismanagement or, causing all of this rift, as we've seen in Tshwane burning and Western Cape now, uncertainty in those structures is something that the party needs to attend with immediate urgency.
Well, I think the ANC was definitely not going to win Western Cape. The majority of wards, municipalities, the metro, I don't think it was. And it's not concentrating on doing so. It realizes it cannot. So it is fighting, really, to retain Tshwane, Pretoria, Johannesburg, Mandela municipality in Eastern Cape. And I think it is important for us to be able to underline that. The second one is to say people who are trying to divert our discussion now by saying, what is my status? I invite you to one day have just a program to deal with that. Let us not deal with it now, because I think it's a waste of time. And it is a diversionary. But we are discussing here factionalism within the ANC. And it's not just factionalism. It is factionalism which is leading to people killing each other within the party, eliminating some candidates. And that's terrible. It is not just unconstitutional. It is criminal and so on. And we need to deal with that. But the ANC has less than 2 million people. The voters, according to the record of the IEC yesterday, who are registered are 26 million, 0.3, and you are talking about 2 million. So the ANC has to be able to show itself the ability to be able to garner votes from outside of the membership. And every party has to do that.
Yeah.
So let's,
yeah. There's the factionalism has affected the electioneering machinery.
Let me come in there. I don't think that it would be correct to say that, ANC people are killing each other because we don't know. And it would be expected that, in fact, there should be arrests and prosecution of such people, and only then will you know. There is a commission. So I don't think that I agree with Professor Guto as far as that is concerned. But when you look at the African National Congress, is that its strength has in fact become maybe perhaps its Achilles heel, because it's truly democratic. Its leaders, councillors, and everyone else is true democracy. They are elected. Whereas the other main parties, particularly being the DA and the EFF, you find that by and large their councillor candidates are appointed. And I think if we should not maybe think that you can dismiss the ANC, it is still by and large but the most popular party that is around. The question is, has the national leadership and the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, what lessons have they taken from this and what can they do? And I think there are a number of things that they can do. But primarily, I've been saying this as I've observed it over the last 20 years, political education is core. I even made an example of in the United States with the baseball team, rather, the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers, that before anybody dons the jersey of the LA Dodgers would have had to go through 3 years of education. But the ANC has been talking about political education. And until they do that, whereby anybody before they say, I am a member in good standing, eligible for membership anywhere else. If they haven't gone through political education, I think that is what is going to be an Achilles heel for the ANC.
We're seriously out of time.
I think we must first say that it is extremely shocking that a constitutional law expert will come to studio and say that the killings are associated with factions in the ANC before there's any convictions in a court of law that associates those killings with factions in the ANC. It's really sad, but I don't know why Professor Kuto says that. Secondly, I want to say it is not true that the ANC does not is not democratic or does not understand democracy. Out of all candidates or all political parties, it is only the ANC that takes its candidates to communities to be accepted as ward councillors. No other political party does that.
Thank you so much for coming through. And again, we have only a few days to thresh these issues out, and I'm sure you'll indulge us and join us for future discussions. As always, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Sepo Khadima is a political analyst. Professor Shadrack Guto is with UNISA, and we have Ondumiso Mokako. He is with the ANC Youth League as an NEC member. And you at home, thanks so much for taking the trouble to call in. We're back after this.